Welcome to the Sunday Run podcast. Last week, I had my friend Steve on, housemate Steve. He's also one of my best mates, and he's an absolute legend. He's turned his whole life around with fitness. I'd love to say I was a bit of a catalyst in that. So we had a chat all about it, and I really think you should go and give it a listen. If you haven't already, please like, comment, rate, subscribe. Do like all the things that you got to do to make us better, because let's spread the word. Get into this episode. I want to start doing these episodes standing up like I'm a comedian, walking around in front of the camera. That wouldn't make any difference. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sunday Run podcast. We've got your favourite guest on today. It's me. Solo episode. We're back. And I say it every single week, and I mean it every single week. We've got a huge episode today. So I'm so glad you're with us. I'm so glad you're here. If you're running, good job. If you're in Melbourne, there's a good chance you're running in the cold, wet, and the rain. Keep going, Queen. Keep going, King. Just make it happen, because I understand right now it's pretty difficult, but you're going to keep pushing through. The sun's going to shine through, and then it's all going to be worth it. I put out a Q&A the other day. I was like, send me in some questions. I just did sometimes I'll put it on my Instagram and just randomly, send in some questions, and then it can be really hit and miss. Like sometimes I get a couple really good ones, and then other times it just goes gangbusters and I get heaps of really good ones. Today was one of those gangbusters ones. So I've got a pretty, not much in the run sheet because the Q&A is going to be so big. But firstly, let's get through the intro. I went to Sydney recently. It was really good fun. I managed to do a group run, and as per with my organisation skills, it was about 12 hours, actually maybe 6 hours of letting people know, hey, I'm going to be in Sydney, I'm going to be in Double Bay, let's meet at this spot, let's go for a run. And we had so many people rock up, probably 15 to 20 people. We all went for a jog along around Double Bay, which is a beautiful area, very motivating to run, and I got to meet a few of you guys, which is really great. I think those group runs and that community aspect, it's literally why I do it. It's 100% why I do all this running stuff. And the best part about it is being able to properly put a face to the follower or a face to the name. And what I've found, especially with these group runs, which I absolutely love, it's not how can I say this without sounding like a bit of a twit, but I've found if I've ever done a meet and greet, and I say that with bunny ears, quotation marks, a meet and greet in the past, not with this community, maybe with a brand I was with previously, it was very kind of almost a follower and celebrity kind of vibe where it's hey mate, how are you? Get a photo, jog on. Whereas with these community runs, it's so elite that you guys are so chill, it's we're just mates and we're going for a run and we're talking about things in life. We're talking about running. We're talking about all sorts of different things. And I don't know, I get so much out of it. So to be honest, I probably get a whole lot more out of it than you guys do. But I'm going to continue to do those because the Sunday Run community is, I get astounded by it all the time. And yeah, that Sydney run, it was done off the back of no preparation, no organisation, and we still had a fairly solid group kind of rock up. All sorts of different ages, which is awesome. And yeah, I just really appreciate everyone who showed up to that, everyone who thought about coming or interacted with the post. I will continue to do more. I've been meaning to do one in Melbourne. I was meant to do one a couple of weeks ago, but it kind of things just got a little bit out of hand, and I was all right, we can't be doing a group run at the moment, but we will be doing a group run soon. So thanks to everyone who showed up there. I got some Apple AirPod Maxes. This is next on the agenda. So things are going great. I just wanted to touch base and talk about them because I'm a huge fan. I've had AirPods, in the ear AirPods previously, which I still have, and I use them for running and stuff. But I wanted something that's a little bit softer on the ear and a bit more of an experience for when I'm watching a movie or listening to music or listening to podcasts. So I got some AirPod Maxes, and I'm going to do a review on them soon. So stay tuned, everyone. But yeah, I'm a huge fan so far, and it'd be cool if you're listening to this with AirPod Maxes. Running, been building it up a fair bit. I think I mentioned on a podcast the other day that I am in grind season. I'm grinding, baby. I am waking up at a good time. I'm going to bed at a reasonable hour. My diet is on point. My running and my steps throughout the day is also on point. So I'm kind of gearing up for traveling. So I'm going away to South Korea late July. And I want to be in good condition for that first and foremost. After Korea, I'm going to the US for a running thing, which is going to be really exciting. I also want to be in really good condition for that. So in the lead up to those two things, I'm currently in a calorie deficit now. That sucks. It's not enjoyable. I'm not loving it, if I'm honest. But in my line of work, it's actually pretty necessary. And, that's the beauty of these podcasts is I can talk about this stuff without worrying about like a comment section that's going to tear me to pieces or even like the potential for things to be taken out of context, because the second you start talking about calorie deficits, even calories alone, like I understand it can be triggering for some people, like its relationship with food and stuff can be a little bit hit and miss at times. So being able to talk about it on a podcast means I can elaborate and it's not taken out of context. But in my line of work, which is social media, very dependent on how I look. And that sounds very vain, and it is pretty vain. But how I look is really important. So I know I'm going to be going on holiday where I'm going to be in the sun, I'm going to be running, I'm going to be doing a lot of work with brands and stuff, and I need to be in like the best condition possible. So in the lead up to me going away, I'm in a deficit. I'm eating below my maintenance calories, which means I'm losing fat. And then I've increased my protein intake, which means I'm retaining muscle. So essentially I'm just trying to lose fat and retain muscle. I'm doing all of this while still trying to run. And it can make for some pretty miserable days, if I'm honest. But the reason I brought it up, I wanted to kind of talk about it in that, like, what you guys will see on social media and what you'll see on Instagram is going to be like, me after a run, probably with my top off, sweating, like looking pretty lean. And like people interpret that as though like my body is that shape because I just went for a run. Or like my body is that shape because like I lift, weights a few times a week and then I go on a few runs and then I just like eat whatever I want. It is not the case. I am so dialed in with my training. I'm so dialed in with my diet at the moment. And it's almost a full-time job trying to be in the best condition I possibly can. So when you see that come up on Instagram and me acting all chill about it, like, yeah, just, took these photos and I look like an alien almost, just know that there's been a lot of like discipline and like hard work that's gone into that, but also to an extent that's almost unhealthy. If it wasn't my job, I would say it's unhealthy. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up. And like weight loss and weight gain, it's really big for people, I think everyone either wants to lose a little bit more fat, or when I was young, I just wanted to put on as much size as possible. And that's quite difficult to navigate, especially if you don't understand how it works. So a lot of people see like Instagrams go, oh, they've just, lifted weights 3 times a week and gone for a few runs and then eaten like clean is the buzzword. So not the case. It's all about, I find, calories in versus calories out. So yeah, I'd say try and keep it as healthy as you possibly can. I'm not giving any tips of how to eat in a calorie deficit or how to be in a calorie surplus. But I would say your number one goal in life, if you are not a content creator / influencer, should be to just be happy with like your body / like your your intake and stuff. Next up, rest days. I've had heaps of questions in my DMs lately being like, Louis, I need to have a rest day. I need to schedule rest days. How do I do that without going stir crazy? And my answer is to get a life to some extent. Like, you are so much more than your training. I know a lot of people rely on training as like it's a form of, like, it's their hobby, and it's my hobby as well. And this is something I've spoken about with mates as well, where it's like, shit, I should probably get new hobbies. But I understand the mental benefits you are getting from training, and I get the exact same. Like, hugely beneficial. I feel elite, but it's not the be all and end all. Like, if you miss a session, honestly, you should be getting to the point where it's like you're okay with that. Now, of course, like, there needs to be some level of discipline. There needs to be some level of motivation as well, but and commitment. But you need to be able to just be like okay with having a rest and understand that your rest day is just as important as the training days, if not more important. Like, if you're training really hard in the gym and you're not allowing your body to recover, you're just ruining your gains, essentially. It's the same with running. If you're just flogging yourself all the time, you're on a one-way trip for, shin splints, stress fractures, just general injuries that are going to put you on the sideline for a lot longer. So take your rest days seriously. Think about them and schedule time for rest days. I feel like that's something, especially in like chaotic lives, if you're in corporate and stuff, it's the same as like not scheduling time to yourself. Start putting in your diary, like, I need 5 minutes to myself today, or I need 5 minutes, or I need an hour to myself today. Put that in your diary like it is a job. You can clearly tell I've been listening to a lot of Jay Shetty podcasts, but I think that's like the exact same as rest days, and it's the same for your life as well. But yeah, I'd recommend taking rest days seriously. I get so many questions about it, and it's hard to actually, it's like, what do you want me to say? Like, you need the rest day. You're just going to have to take it. And if you're finding that your whole life is built around fitness, which mine is as well, don't get me wrong, but it's probably a good opportunity for reflection. It's probably a good opportunity to go, maybe I need to get some new hobbies and stuff. Go out drinking with your friends. Maybe don't do that. All right, Q&A. I said it'd be like a little bit shorter at the first couple of topics, but the Q&A, I don't know, you guys just turned it on today. So sit tight, and I might read out the names, I might not, pending on the question, just because I like to keep people anonymous if I think it might, I don't know, they might be embarrassed by it or whatever. Callum says, if you suddenly lost everything, brackets, sponsors, Instagram, what job would you get? I spoke about this on a podcast the other day, actually. I was on the Ferg Neal podcast. If you haven't listened, go check it out. What would I do? It's a great question. I'm at uni currently, doing agribusiness, farming business. That's been deferred for a year or two now, and I need to get back into it. I've got a couple subjects left, but I think first thing I'd do is get straight onto that, make sure I can tick that one off, get a degree under my belt. I will get a degree under my belt soon. I need to apply myself. And then I probably just wouldn't use it, to be honest. I'd want to get that degree just to say I have a degree, keep mum and dad happy and get on with life. From there, I reckon I would probably get a job in a corporation or company to do with social media and stuff. Like, I would work in social media for a company, apply my skills, and I think I can help plenty of companies with that. In saying that, that would almost be option B. Option A would be to build up my social media and like my sponsors again. And I really believe I'd be able to do that. I would also go into selling like selling fitness programming and stuff. I'm able to not do that at the moment because I have sponsors. So I'm able to actually give it out for free. But if I lost all the sponsors and stuff, then I would probably recreate the fitness programming, start charging for it, have a good enough, like the money is so good in that kind of realm. So I think I'd be able to like survive off that. But yeah, it's a good question, and certainly something I've thought about in the last kind of month or so with a lot of shit going on. So I'm not going anywhere, but if it was taken away from me, short answer, I would either work for a company in social media, which I did for a year at the AFL, or I would, and whilst doing that, I'd probably actively build up my social media again, get into selling fitness programming, just get back on the horse and see how I go. RSM_5 says, tips to build an audience on social media based around health and fitness. It's a really good question. The thing is, people, how do you put it? People can see through bullshit now. It's just the fact. So back in the day, you could have big old Mike O'Hearn, who's 60 years old, has the body of a 24-year-old who has done, so much steroids. And he'd get on the cover of Men's Health magazine and he'd go, I'm not on steroids, I just eat duck eggs. You can't do that anymore. So how would I build up social media from a fitness perspective? It's all about honesty for me. That's what's worked for me in the past. And it's about like that vulnerability aspect. Now, it is a bit of a buzzword, the vulnerability. Like, you don't need to be going onto your social media crying and, like kicking and screaming and stuff. But there needs to be a level of like not being a robot. Go on there and say, like, for instance, for me, I was doing the sub 20-minute 5K, which a lot of you guys followed me for. And it was just documenting my journey through that. So one day I'd get up and go, honestly, I don't want to run today, but I've set myself a goal of a sub 20-minute 5K, so I'm going to do it. And then I'd show myself running, and then I'd say, look, I didn't want to run at the start, but I'm glad I did. I feel a lot better. You should get out and do it as well. So there's one episode. The next episode, I'm feeling good about running, and I'm feeling so good that I think I'm going to beat the sub 20-minute 5K. I go for a run. I fail miserably. I'm behind by like 30 seconds, but I'm going to document that and actually put it up. Whereas I think in the past, it was like, I want to try and run a sub 20-minute 5K. I'm going to do this exact program, which you can buy, link in my bio, and then I'm going to run the sub 20-minute 5K and hit it first go. And then naturally, everyone goes and buys the program because they think all you need to do is buy the program, do one session, then you can hit the sub 20-minute 5K. But like, people see through that stuff these days. So I'd really recommend like the vulnerability aspect. That's number one. Number two is like the honesty. Don't be a robotic influencer. I've spoken about this so many times, but I remember I was following this influencer and she was like, oh, like had to sleep in today, slept until like 5:30 a.m. And it's like, oh my God, babe. Like, that's just like so. Now, I understand for her, like that might have been a sleep in and it's all about relevance and all of that. But just think about your audience. Like, think about who is watching and who's going to read that. You might get a kick out of it because people are like, wow, you get up so early. But in actual fact, people watch that and they're like, oh my God, that's so like not me, Like, people want to be able to apply the things you're teaching online to their life. And if it's so out of the realm, they're not going to be able to. The other thing, I think this is the fourth tip, would be a series. Try and take people along for a journey, okay? So for me, it was that sub 20-minute 5K thing. I've done other ones, like building up to a marathon, and I will continue to do other ones. But taking people along your journey, like, I'm trying to get to here. I want to get to this point. This is what I'm going to do to get there. And then showing everything along the way. Not just like, I want to get to this point and then I'm there. Like, show the ups and downs. We've kind of already spoken about that. But I think that is really important in that, like, take them for a journey. Another thing that's helped me was like just having the confidence to talk to the camera. I think there is something innate within us where if we see like a face on the screen that is talking, we're naturally brought to it. So instead of just doing voiceovers, instead of, like doing a voice effect or like doing subtitles that have like, that is like speaking for you, speaking to the camera, especially in that first frame of your video or whatever it is really going to capture attention. So yeah, I don't know, the world of social media, it's a wild one and there's so much to it. It's always evolving. There's always going to be the next thing. But generally speaking, people can see through the bullshit. And it's all about confidence and how you can get through. We interrupt this episode to talk to you about some sponsors. Thank you to our sponsors who have come on board with the Sunday Run podcast. It keeps us going every single week. To start off, we have Brooks. You guys know I'm with Brooks, and I always get asked, Louis, what shoes do you wear? I wear so many different shoes, and I'm very lucky that I can wear so many different shoes, but Brooks definitely has a pair of shoes for you. I would recommend checking out the Brooks Ghost as an all-rounder shoe. That thing is incredible. The Hyperion Max is also incredible. It's super light, and if you're going for a quick time, I'd really recommend checking out the Hyperion Max. Generally speaking, though, Brooks has this incredible ability to just fit so many different feet. So check out Brooks if you haven't already. And if you do pick up a pair, make sure you send me a photo of you running with them or whatever, and I'll chuck it up on my socials and, yeah, give you a big G up because the Brooks family, I'm going to say it's the best in Australia. So get involved. Next up, we have Before You Speak Coffee. Now, coffee is a big part of my life. I love coffee. I remember I only started drinking coffee after school. But wow, once I had my first sip, once I got through the bitter taste and my kind of taste buds developed, I am wholeheartedly addicted to coffee, and a very specific coffee at the moment. It's called Before You Speak Coffee. They do coffee beans. They also do coffee like sachets, and the sachets are really handy because I wake up in the morning, flick the kettle on, pour a sachet into the mug, pour the kettle, and I'm good to go. It's like literally that easy. It's got like collagen in it. Some have turmeric in them. They taste incredible, really low calories. So if you want, go and check out Before You Speak Coffee. Use code Lewis10 at checkout. Get 10% off. You'll be helping me out a whole lot. Let's get back to this episode. Right. Next question. Oh, this was a really great question. Lil Mac and Cheezels says, what parts of you do you not show on social media that you wish people knew more about? And I've been thinking about it for the last 24 hours. And I honestly, I don't really have a great answer, so don't get too excited, but I'll have a good enough answer for you. Social media for me has been really fun. Like, I've had so much enjoyment with it. Like, I get so much out of it. I do my absolute best to be as honest on social media as I possibly can. Like, I want to show you guys as much about my life that I'm comfortable with, and have you as involved as possible. Now, there's still things like that I'm going to keep off social media from, firstly, a business perspective, but secondly, just like out of respect to young people I have following me, out of respect to old people I have following me, out of respect to family. Like, I don't need to put everything onto social media. For example, like, let's say I go out for some beers with some friends and I might have a toke of a vape. And it's like, I'm not going to record myself putting that on and put it up on social. Like, that would just be ridiculous. Now, I don't do that often, just FYI, but that's like an example. But what do I want on there that people don't see? And it's probably changed over the last like couple of months. For those that like aren't aware, of like a month or two ago, like had all this shit blow up on social media, which wasn't very relevant to my audience. So a lot of you wouldn't have seen it. It was like he said, she said. Anyway, we've all moved on. From that, I had heaps of people messaging me being like so much support, which is fantastic. Like, are you okay? Like, I hope you're doing okay. Like, when I'd go a bit quiet on social media, like, dude, I hope you're all right. I almost wish I could put on social media how happy I am. Like, I am so happy. My life is so good. I'm so appreciative of every individual in my life. And I wish I could transfer that onto the screen a little bit more, because I still get so many messages where people are like, are you okay? And that kind of thing. So that's one thing that I wish I could show on social media. The other thing would be, I suppose, like how difficult the industry actually can be. And this one's like, I suppose it's down to like work. Yeah, like how much work I put in and like what goes into the day-to-day. It's really hard to articulate exactly what I do in my day that's all applying to social media. But like, there is so much work that goes into it and so much that you guys probably wouldn't see. And then there was a third one as well, which I had in my head, and it is no longer in my head. But generally speaking, like, the work that goes into it, and then like the motivation behind it, how much it fluctuates and how up and down it is. I kind of wish I could put that more on social media. But I want to come back to that question because I had some other good points which have kind of slipped my mind. But yeah, it's a fantastic question. Rory_Macintosh, motivation in all aspects. In depth on how you stay motivated on your goals. So in all aspects. So like, normally we apply the motivation question to the fitness thing. But motivation in regards to all aspects is quite difficult. Like, I fluctuate so much. At the moment, I'm on this like real like exciting grind where every day I wake up, it's like I'm working toward, like I have a goal that I'm working towards in the next 2 or 3 years. It's like we're heading towards it. Everything's in action, and like there's things for me to do every second to make sure that can happen. Now, when it's not like that, it can be pretty like bleak and grim. So trying to find like that level, like find that neutral, as we say. And trying to find that can be pretty difficult, and it's not something I do consistently. So how do I stay motivated in regards to it? Well, I think finding that neutral is really important. So what does that look like for me? That is 2 sessions a day. Firstly, I'll either go for a run or a walk, and then a gym session at night. Like that's a non-negotiable. That needs to happen. Now, if I can knock those 2 things off, generally other things fall into place, whether that's business-wise, whether that's relationship-wise, whether that's fitness-wise. If I can get those 2 things in place, my brain works a whole lot better, and I can continue to act and conduct myself in a manner that is good for the world. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to always stay motivated, especially in all aspects, but I definitely think having a goal and having a vision is really important. Someone said to me just before I started, like, getting a little bit bigger on social media, it was like figure out a goal and work back from it. So like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Let's say it's whatever, like you want to own your own house in 5 years. Let's start with that, and let's work back from it in everything we need to do to make that happen to where we are today. And then straight away, you have a plan that you can work towards. But I don't know, people are horses for courses, and people all think differently. But I would really recommend kind of having a goal and working towards it is the ticket, and just keep chipping away. Dill_Stu says, any strategies to stay grounded with the increased social media profile? Genuinely curious. Yeah, it's a great question. And when I first read the question, it's like, oh, well, I don't feel like I don't have enough of a following. I don't have enough people who like care about me from a social perspective that I have to try and stay grounded. But then I was thinking, it's like, well, hang on, if I go out with friends, if I go to the shops or something, like almost guaranteed that someone will come up to me and say hi and say like they like my running content or whatnot, or the like lifting content. And it's like straight away, that's a whole lot more attention than I've ever had before. So it's actually something I have thought about. And in terms of staying grounded, like I've got the best people, friends, family around me that I don't need to worry about it too much. Like I don't have celebrity friends where we have to wear masks to go into the shops and stuff. Like all my friends and family are like 9 to 5 working good people who don't give a shit about how many followers I have. So I think that alone is what keeps me grounded. I've got mates, a couple particularly, where like if I post something on social media or I say something, like they'll check me. Like it's not, I don't just post stuff and we don't just have an echo chamber of agreeance. And I think that's really important. If you don't have people there who are going to check you and say, oh, probably don't post that, or, maybe put the phone away while you're getting really angry at these people, or maybe do that, like if you don't have those people around you, you are going to spiral so quick. You are going to get so out of touch and into your own little world that like it's all just going to pass you straight away. So I definitely think like the best way to stay grounded is like it's the people around me, and they certainly are not afraid to check me. Ways to cope with mental struggles. Good to hear other ways. Yeah, mental struggles. I've been so lucky and fortunate in my life where, like I've had a pretty like cruisy life in terms of mental struggles. I've never had like anything diagnosed necessarily from a like depression, anxiety perspective. And then in terms of adversity in life, like, mate, so lucky, like best family, mum and dad still together, great relationship, rarely ever any fights around the house, like just, and like pretty much given every opportunity that I've ever kind of like asked for or wanted to an extent. So then like how I deal with mental struggles is probably like it's all relevant, but it's probably different to a lot of people. So take this answer with a grain of salt. But I remember one of the hardest things I had to go through was a while ago, and I've spoken about it heaps, was like a breakup. And it wasn't just like the breakup, like I got broken up with, and then it was just like, it was a real realization at the time of like, oh shit, like I'm like on my own. I'm an adult. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I felt like I had a pretty good fitness business, but I think that fell apart just after it. and like it all just kind of crowded in on me. So straight away, like, what did I do to start like fixing my mental? Well, I actually went to therapy, and it was great. Like, it was such a cool experience in that I didn't feel like I fully needed it, but I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, why not? So I went to this therapist, did like 5 to 10 sessions. Firstly, I went to a doctor, got a mental health certificate. She's like, yeah, just go and chat to a therapist and see what happens. And I got in there and I remember thinking, this is going to be like an exam where they sit you down. All right, you got to do this, this, and this. And then, I'm going to end up in a padded cell or something. So not the case. It's literally, you roll in, you sit down, they ask you a few questions, and you just like start this conversation. And as you could tell for the last 30 minutes of this podcast, I can talk. So having someone there to just listen was really cool. But what this therapist and what therapists are trained to do is ask the right questions. So he'd ask, I'd say something, and where like just a conversation with a friend or whatever, they'd like almost disregard what I say or just be like, yeah, I hear you. The therapist would say something like, and how did that make you feel? Let's say I was like, oh, and then, I got out of the car and I dropped my coffee, and then I did it. And the therapist would go, wait, how did you feel when you dropped your coffee? And that's like really cool to think about because it's not something you generally think about. And I mean, that was one way I dealt with one of the like biggest adversities in my life, I suppose. But then generally speaking, from a day-to-day perspective, I like fitness is a really big one for me. First and foremost, I walk like crazy. I probably do like 10 to 20,000 steps a day minimum, and then I'll obviously go for runs in gym. On top of that, my friendship circle is the best at talking about our feelings. We are not like a group of toxic, footy lads who can't talk about our feelings. Boy, can we talk about our feelings, and boy, do we figure things out real fast. So, my other thing is like calling a mate and having a chat to a friend. I think that does wonders for my mental health, and I feel very kind of fortunate to be able to do that and have that chat with someone. But then on the same side, it's like if I'm going to open up to someone and tell them about my, struggles or whatever it may be, then I expect the same back from them. So I think that's really important because a lot of people who go out looking to, saying to friends, like, you can always talk to me, and then they don't reciprocate it. Like they won't go and reach out to that person and talk to them. I think that's like, it's really important for you to do. So I don't know, it's some chats we've had. Right, more questions. How to find your purpose in life? Keep anonymous. Purpose in life. I don't really have much on this, but it's all about passion. Like, find passion and go from there. Generally speaking, like, service is a really good place to start. And I think 90% of the world would find their passion in helping others. Yeah, so like whether that's in fitness, whether that's in, like working in a soup kitchen, but it doesn't have to be that kind of that raw. Like helping others is such a big thing, and I feel like that is generally where you will find your purpose in life. You can just apply that to like if you're into footy, then go and help out at Auskick or something, and I reckon you'll go pretty far from there. I want to have running as my hobby, but I don't know where to start. Do I run till tired or 5K per day? I want to have running as my hobby. All right, so if you want running as your hobby, first and foremost, you need to enjoy it. That is number one tip. That is your rule. That is your job for the next month, is to enjoy running. So how do we do that? Well, I want you to go out and not flog yourself. Don't push yourself too hard, and get to the point where you're going for a run and you're really looking forward to it. I'd say starting off with like 30 seconds of jogging and 30 seconds of walking. Do that 10 times, okay? And then next time, come back. I want you to do 30 seconds of jogging, 20 seconds of walking. Do that 15 times. The next time you come back, do 30 seconds of jogging, 10 seconds of walking. Do that 20 times. And then the next time, let's do 10, 20 minutes of jogging, just straight, okay? That should be like slow enough and enjoyable enough that you're going to want to keep coming back. And then once you get that bug, I reckon you can do heaps of research and figure out like what the best running plan and stuff will be. But just try and get that bug first. Angus_C1 says, do you know Wycheproof? Wycheproof is a town in Victoria. I've actually been there a few times, Angus. I used to work for the TAC doing breath testing at the end of country races. And I worked at the Wycheproof country races, I'm pretty sure. And our job, so it was essentially promo work, yeah? So your job, I was like, I'd been like 20 years old, 21, and I was with all these, like, because it's promo work, so you're with generally like very attractive people who are like the face of a brand, like brand ambassadors to an extent. And I was with these gorgeous girls, maybe a couple of guys as well. And our job was to like do breath testing at the end for people who were like thinking about driving home or who just wanted to see their blood alcohol levels. And I remember working at the Wycheproof races and had a lot of drunk idiots come up to us and blow into the machines. But it was great fun, and I love those country towns. I've probably been to every single small country town in Victoria. So if you're listening to this and you're from a country town, send in what it is and I'll tell you if I've been. Khan_H says, AFL team, I go for the West Coast Eagles. Been a tough year, big fella. Oscar_Thomas says, how are you doing? It's a really nice question. I'm doing so well, mate, to be honest. Life is peaking at the moment. And I've got so much to come that, I can't wait to show you guys everything. Any advice on actually resting when burnt out / exhausted and not going stir crazy? Claire_Bell. Actually resting. It's a good question. I mean, it's the same thing as like that topic I brought up before about like you're just going to have to do it. But I feel like you can have like active rest, you know? Like, I mean, if you're experiencing burnout, then the rest shouldn't be that hard. Like resting shouldn't be that hard if you're experiencing proper burnout. But I think you're just going to need to understand that you resting is what is going to kind of keep pushing you forward in the future. And then the important thing from coming back from a burnout is like gradually increasing, not just going back. Like let's say from a running perspective, you were running a marathon and then you're like burnt out after the marathon, you have 2 weeks off. If you go straight back into that marathon, you're going to burn out so quick again. So instead of going straight back into a marathon, start with like a 5K jog and then you go into a 10K jog and then, 12.5K jog and so on. You can apply that in any sense of your life. Ernie1297 says, what achievement are you most proud of? I am most proud of the community we've managed to build. Like the Sunday Run community, I'm so proud of. I think it's really relevant, especially like when I went to Sydney and I saw the people, the passion, the chats, the communication. That is what I'm most proud of. It's like the individuals that come to these things, the individuals that follow me, the individuals who are part of this community. Like that is so cool. And they all feel like friends. It doesn't feel like a transactional relationship. So that's what I'm most proud of to this day. Leanna .ss. Have you ridden horses? I used to ride horses. Yes, I was into show jumping. I think I rode horses for about 10 years of my life, actually. My sister's pretty good at show jumping as well. And my mum was into it when she was younger. She was into like cross country and stuff when she was younger back in New Zealand. So yes, I've ridden horses. And to be honest, I miss riding horses every single day. It's probably the sport I missed most. I used to love my old horse, Terry. I think I got him when he was 4 and sold him when he was 7. And like I got him as almost a blank canvas. You know, he'd just been backed. He just like had a saddle put on him pretty much. And then I was able to teach him pretty much everything up until he was 7. And then, I had to sell him for like all this footy stuff and just life was getting too hectic. But yeah, I really miss it. I miss building up horses. I loved going into the bloodlines. I was riding to Warm Bloods and show jumping and like the potential. And yeah, I miss it. And I genuinely want to get a horse in the next 2 years. Aaron Wheeler says, how to change negative emotions, heartbreak slash how to channel negative emotions into positivity in training. It's in like negative emotions being like heartbreak and betrayal, etc. I think definitely like the heartbreak aspect is. I just remember finding like being in the gym or going for a run was like one of the very few spots I would get huge clarity, you know? So I actually didn't need to focus on trying to channel it into it. Like I wasn't like sad, oh, I better go to the gym. It was like, I cannot wait to train. So, you know, that kind of changes things a little bit. But in terms of like channeling it in, well, use everything you can. Like if that's what is going to get you into the gym to get started, then do it. Like allow yourself to go to the gym. But yeah, I think like training, you know, it can be good sometimes, but training where you're like, oh, like if I lift this weight, maybe she'll come back. It's probably a little bit unhealthy, and probably check that a little bit. But I think if you're in the gym to better yourself as an individual, not to try and get someone back, that's really positive. What 3 main stats are using from your Whoop/watch devices? Okay, so Whoop, definitely the sleep. I absolutely love the sleep thing. My watch, obviously like the running aspect, and then also like I'm really enjoying the step count thing at the moment, to be honest, because it helps me manage my calories and all of that. What are your goals for your career in the next 5 years? I don't know if I can answer that at the moment, but just know that there is heaps going on in the background. And it's probably why I've been a little bit quieter on social media. I find it really hard to delegate time, like bandwidth almost. Like I cannot do more than 2 things at once. And I'm probably doing 3 things at once at the moment. And I'm trying to keep going on social media and trying to keep like putting out as much content as I can, but like my mind is elsewhere. Now, what naturally happens from that is like the social media goes down, obviously, like you start losing followers, engagement goes down a little bit, but that's okay. Like I know I'm not defined by that, and I know I'm going to be able to get that back in the future. So I can't really talk about exactly what's to come in the next couple of years, but just know it's really big, and Sunday Run is in its infancy at the moment, but I've got huge plans for it, like really, really big plans. How do you stay motivated during long runs? From Hamish.Fitzgerald. It's a hard one because I think a lot of people think that long runs are like, you're like pushing, you're grinding, it's really hard. What I've found on a lot of my long runs is they're actually quite easy. So motivation's not hard during them. Actually, if I dedicate the time, then I'm sweet to do it. But generally speaking, get some friends to run with and have really good chats. Those are my 2 tips for you. What were you like as a teenager? From Jesse Rochelle, I think. I was a good. So up until year 9, I was a fair bit of trouble, and not trouble as in I wasn't like going out and doing graffiti or doing drugs or anything. I was just like pretty confident, pretty loud, and yeah, like not very I was very disinterested in school, so made for a bit of a cocktail of trouble in school. But I think in general, I was I was a good kid. Like I was nice with my parents. I was very respectful to adults. Like I understood discipline and all of that. But just in things I wasn't interested, I was a little bit of trouble. And then after year 9, I remember I went to a different campus for school, and just like I think I went into my shell a lot, and I think I was like pretty lost as an individual from like, I cared a lot what people thought. And it took me to almost like year 12, I think, to figure that out and just be like totally wholeheartedly myself. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a pretty natural progression. But I learned heaps coming out of school. I'm not even going to try and say the name. Thoughts on veganism? Veganism. My sister's a vegan. She's been a bloody vegan for, I don't know, years now. Like I'd say 7 years. But she's not like she doesn't like put it in your face or anything. I don't know. I actually went through a stage when I was younger. I used to be right into cycling, and I used to watch this guy called Durian Rider, and he had a girlfriend, Freely the Banana Girl. I think that went all balls up, but I quite enjoyed watching his content, especially from the cycling perspective. And I actually totally understood veganism when I used to watch that stuff. Now, I don't think I'd ever do it. But what I'm going to do is get my sister on the podcast next week, I reckon. And we're going to talk about veganism, and I'll pick her brain. So make sure you think up some questions that I can ask her, and maybe we'll convince her to have a steak on the show. That'll be pretty funny. Matthew_Reed, if you could make any content about anything at all, what would it be? Yeah, still fitness related stuff like what I'm doing now. And then on top of that, I would also do like personal development kind of stuff. Personally developing myself, not necessarily others, but I suppose showing that journey would help others personally develop. But I'm getting so much out of like Joe Rogan, Diary of a CEO, Jay Shetty, like all of that kind of stuff. And I just love that style of content. And I'm like very inquisitive. How many grams of protein a day do you eat? 150 to 160 grams per day at the moment on my cut. Sam_smart, have you found your coffee machine yet? Mate, someone came into the bloody house, took the coffee machine along with other stuff, and I haven't found it. So I'm actually looking for a coffee machine sponsor. I've got a coffee sponsor, obviously, in Before You Speak. But if you own a coffee machine company and you want me to promote it for you, I make some really bad latte art, but it makes for great content, and your coffee machine will be involved. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully I answered your questions, and we'll see you next week.